welcome everybody. Greetings everybody. Welcome to the Art Lexcia podcast. This is me, Wesley Pepper. Normally I will announce what episode this is, but man, I'm actually lagging behind in some of my other episodes, and to be honest, I don't really want to call it because I know I messed up the episode numbers in at least 2 previous episodes, so my apologies for that. But if you're new to this podcast and you haven't already, please smash that like and subscribe button. I would appreciate it a lot. But today we're talking to Amanda Strydom. We were trying to connect now. Had some technical issues, but whatever. We are up in live. We're going to talk to Amanda about her gig coming on the Mother's Day weekend at Die Pienk Kerk. I think that's from the 9th to the 10th of May. It's titled The Journey of Tinkerbell from Tonder. So, Amanda, good morning, man. Welcome. How are you?
Good morning. How nice to be able to connect with you. It is cold in Joburg, but my heart is warm that we can at least speak and see each other. Yeah. The show's real name is The Incredible Journey of Tinkerbell van Tonder. And
Okay.
this
apologies
play,
for that.
no, moenie worry nie.
Yeah, please.
This show, I wrote this in 1995, just after we became a democracy. And there was something that bothered me, okay? There was a big rejoicing, especially from the Black community and the white community. And I started getting very concerned about who cares about the colored community. So I wrote the story about a colored child, that grows up with her granny after her mommy and dada died. And when her granny dies, she's sent to a safe haven, the Toevlugsoord Children's Home. And that's the character that I then play. I play the part of Nella Peterson, who was in charge of the kitchen at the Toevlugsoord Children's Home, and she becomes my baby for a few years. It is a story about looking for identity. Where do I belong? Did you want to ask something?
No, that's actually quite interesting. I didn't know it was conceptualized over colored identity. Which obviously you can see I'm part part of colored race. And identity is it's a problem, no? It's a very complicated problem. In fact, I've out of all the colored artists that I've interviewed, and that I know personally, and this cuts across all genres, music, writing, everything. Identity is at the core, or I would say conflict in identity is at the core of where we all source our work from, and I'm speaking from myself over here. So that's very interesting. But let's just take a step back. Can you just give us a bit of background on yourself, of your artistic journey, just so we can get some perspective, and then we'll jump into the story.
Okay. I studied drama at the University of Pretoria, graduated there in 1978, and I was appointed to KPAB, which was then called the Nikumaland Theatre, but is today the Artscape Theatre. I was employed there for a 3-year contract, but I only acted there for 6 months before the film director, Frans Marx, grabbed me away from there, got me out of the contract, put me in a movie that Pieter Dirk Uys wrote. And I played the lead in the movie. And while we were, and you must understand one thing, Wesley, I have no singing training. I'm a trained actress. I sang in the church and in the school choir. God gave me a voice, and we used to sing at the kitchen table in the evenings when my dad had a huisgodsdienst, when we read from the Bible and then we would all sing. And I had an amazing hours with my hairbrush as a microphone in front of my mirror in my bedroom and singing in the bathroom that had a lekker echo, okay, with LM radio blaring in the background. That is my only way of singing. But while we were filming this movie, Frans Marx heard me singing one day while the makeup lady was doing my makeup. He tells me that he organized me an audition at the Civic Theatre in Johannesburg, now known as the Joburg Theatre. I said, "Are you crazy? I have no singing training." He says, "You're going to go and do it." He took me to a boutique in Sandton, bought me an outfit, dropped me at the Civic. I walked on that stage with my knees shaking. A man sits behind the piano. He gets up and he says, "Hello, my name is Dan Hill. What are we singing today?" I almost said, "Bobby McGee." And he said, "In what key?" I didn't have a cooking clue what he was talking about. He said, "We're going to sing it where it's comfortable for your voice." So I sang Bobby McGee with shaking knees, and I got the lead opposite Nick Taylor in his new musical then, Christian it was called, or the Follow the Man with the Big Bass Drum in the Holy Glory Band. There I was, 23 years old, freelance, opposite Nick Taylor in a musical. I was the only Afrikaans girl in the entire cast. Then the great impresarios of that time, Louis Burke and Joan Brickhill, came to Durban where we opened the show. They saw it, they bought it, and they brought it to Johannesburg. So there I was suddenly from Cape Town, then in Durban freelance, in Johannesburg, in the beautiful, now non-existing His Majesty's Theatre. And that's where I made my debut as a singer, which I never thought ever my career would take a turn in. And many people attended this show, and also producers from the SABC then. SATV was busy making a lot of Afrikaans music programs. I never liked Afrikaans music. I found it, I don't know, you know, it was songs either translated from American or English, or we had Gey Korsten, Rina Higu, Groep 2, etc. But they pushed me into it. And I did. Many times I sang translated songs of Liza Minnelli. Don't ask me why, but I did. And I got tired of that. Here towards 1982, 83. And I decided, no, I want to go back to acting. And then I was cast in a lot of plays by Peter Turin in that stage. I often played American characters, and I guess it's because I'm an actress that accents come easily to me. I got an amazing lead in a television drama called 1922 about the uprising of miners in 1922 in Joburg, when the workers in the mines were concerned and being fired because they had to replace a lot of them with white workers. And of course, the black community who made their living off the mines it was a riot, okay? But I played a Polish woman, so I sat through hours of Meryl Streep in Sophie's Choice to get that accent down, and I did it, and it was a breakthrough in my life as an actress, an Afrikaans actress being seen as an actress, English involved, okay? And they compared my performance to that of Meryl Streep's, and it was a great honor to receive the Star Tonight award for that. You know, my life has walked a long, long road from that. I have been in many productions. I have had the courage to stand up in 1986. I couldn't stand what was happening in our country anymore. The country was burning. It was a time of uprise, injustice, and I had enough. I saw a clip on television of a woman being necklaced in a township here in Soweto, and it shook me to my core. And Wesley, I wrote a song about the injustice of the pass laws. I did a cabaret in Cape Town at the Oude Libertas Theatre in 1986. The audience was crazy about me. It was one encore after another. And my dear pianist of that time, Sammy Hartman, bless his soul, he's already passed, said to me when we ran back to the kitchen after the third encore, he said, "We've got no more songs. Why don't you sing that song that you wrote about the pass laws? Because I sing it without music. I sing it a cappella." And he pushed me on that stage to do it, and it changed my life forever. I sang the song about the pass laws in Afrikaans, and I ended it with a Black Power salute and Amanda. Half the audience booed, the other audience applauded, the press exploded. I was then dubbed Amanda Strydom. Of course, it fits perfectly with my name. And I cannot begin to tell you the pressure, the humiliation from the people who were, sorry, my fans. I just got a sip.
Yeah, take your time.
There's a frog in my throat.
Sorry.
I couldn't handle the reaction. I mean, it was on every front page of every newspaper then in 1986. There were strange phone calls to my house. There were strange cars parked outside our house. And I actually eventually had a complete nervous breakdown. I was hospitalized in an institution. The first one was 3 months. And later, when I got out and thought I could get back in the industry, nobody would give me work because they thought I was obviously a risk and not to be trusted.
Yeah.
I had to
I get it.
I had to get letters from my psychiatrist to prove that I was capable and completely okay to do my work. It was a terrible time in my life. Because I couldn't get work, I had to go and look for work because my psychiatrist said, "You have to stay worthy. You need to get self-worth again after all this pain you've gone through." And I went looking for a job, and nobody would employ me. People would laugh at me and say, "But you're Amanda Strydom." Eventually, a friend of mine who knew somebody who ran an insurance company where people call in for quotes on insurance, contacted me. I went for an interview and I got the job. So there I was, getting my job, studying and doing the exams in insurance, and for 3 years I worked at Teleplex Santam, answering the phone and saying, "Goeiemôre Teleplex, good morning, how can I help you?" And you know what? I think it healed me to be around people who were just down-to-earth, ordinary people. Nobody cared if I was Amanda Strydom or not. We would sit in the little lounge, lunchtimes, and they would say, "Hey, I've got a mince salmi here. Would you like one?" They would talk about their homes, about their dogs, about their wives. They just loved me unconditionally. After 3 months working there, I became the communications manager, teaching people how to speak on a phone, because I am an actress. So I did that, and then one day, my great friend, the late Johannes Kerkorrel, stormed into the office. I still don't know how he got through security, and he said, "How long are you going to sit here? You're wasting your talent." I said to him, "I am healing. Give me time." He said, "No, you've had enough time to heal." And before you can say TikTok, he organized the band, he organized the venue, and my boss then, Irida de Tooi at Santam, said, "You're going to do it." Because it was Friday and Saturday nights at 12 o'clock at night in a little place in Pretoria called After Dark. It was me, Tandy Klaasen, and Abigail Kubeka. We did shows called Ladies of the Night. We each had our own show. And they paid me 400 Rand a night for a show. Geez, it was a fortune for me, who was used to big salaries and fame and everything. I was so nervous the first night I walked on that stage to sing again after all those years, and the people started banging with their spoons on the table. I'll never forget it. Of course, I burst into tears and I said, "Shut up, let's hear if I can still sing." And I did, and it was wonderful. Then my boss at Santam, Irida, said, "You better go now. I can't stimulate you anymore. Why don't you contact your agent again?" And I contacted my agent, Muneen Lee, bless her heart, she's also passed. She got me a part in Arende, a very popular Afrikaans drama series. On the set of Arende, I met Ian Roberts, who played the lead. And he came with his then wife, Michelle Botes, bless her heart, she's also passed now. And she was a dear friend. Yeah. Ian said, why don't you write your own stories and sing your own songs? Because he and she came to see one of the shows there at After Dark. And I mean, I was doing cover versions. I mean, I only wrote one song in Afrikaans in my life in 1979. And it's become one of the most precious songs. It's called Ek loop die pad. But I didn't, like I say, like where Afrikaans music was going. So he said, "Why don't you write a play?" And they brought me a typing machine. They bought me a typewriter. And Michelle and I were then also continuity announcers at the then NNTV. I think it's ETV today. So you sit there for 30 seconds, you say, "And now we're going to watch the mating habits of the gorillas in the Congo." And then you go sit back in the green room, drink a lot of coffee. So I took my Croxley classwork book. I sat in that lounge and I started writing my first one-woman show called State of the Heart. Ian directed, we opened at After Dark, and the rest is history. From that moment, I realized if nobody's going to trust me, if people still have doubts about my mental health, etc., the only person who can save me is me. And that's when I started writing my own one-woman shows. Not just standing at a piano singing, but telling a story interwoven with music, like a mini musical. And in that way, I can combine my acting ability, my singing ability, and my writing ability. And I don't have to ask anybody for work or wait for the phone to ring. I create my work. Wesley, it has set me free. It was like a waterfall coming down and opening in my head, and I am so blessed that I can do that and to work with amazing musical directors who understand me, because I have no singing training. I have no idea how to write music, but I hear the songs in my head while I'm writing the lyrics. So people that I work with, like Didi Kriel Kunradral, who's now been my pianist for 14 years, Janine Neetling, they hear when I read the lyrics to them, and I always write in a rhythm, and then I hum the melody that I hear, and together we improvise the song until it is born. And I don't know now if I've covered an entire biography, but here I am today.
Wow, that was fantastic. Thank you. Sure. Thank you, Mana. That was great. Yeah, you mentioned so many things there. You work with Kerk, Franz Marx. I mean, those are legends. I know. For my audience that don't know, Franz Marx is more the TV soap opera genre, but Johannes Kerk was actually quite a controversial guy in his prime. More in the Afrikaner community, but Also very radical, brother. That's very interesting. I mean, Michelle Waters, wow, incredible journey, and also a lot of resilience. Now I we can. There's actually a few things I want to unpack about that, but I just realized that we're actually talking about your production on the 9th to the 10th of May. But an incredible journey. Thank you for sharing that again. Um, which actually leads me sort of, how did you, or rather, I mean, you were talking about like mid 80s. I know the boycotts were rife. The UDF was very strong. I mean, South Africa was a different country back then. And also just to bring in the whole colored identity thing. I mean, the colored community was very involved in the UDF part of it. But not much after that really. Um, and also the community. Let me rather not go down that road. But I'm actually interested to know, how did you conceptualize the play? What events, or what pushed you to say, no, I'm gonna write about this, and what's the play about?
The play is about a
The
little
production.
colored girl. I don't know if I've said this before, but she's born in a place called Nooit Gekry. And her granny told her that her mummy and dada died when she was still peeing in her nappy. So her granny brings her up, looks after her, and then one day a priest from St. Teresa's, Father Abrams, comes to her school and tells her that her granny had now also died. And that's when she comes to the children's home, where I, as the character Nella Peterson, look after her. She becomes like my baby, and I try to protect her from a horrible principal at the school, Mrs. Dupasani. I have mixed a lot of history into this play because of my care, understanding, and support of the colored community, where I always felt there wasn't really looked after them. Where do they belong? So I learned a couple of Khoisan words. I had my friend Fraser Barry teaching me terms and words in Khoisan. This child grows up without ever knowing, where is my home? Where is home now? Granny's gone. I'm in this horrible place that I don't like, but I think this is going to be my home forever. And then a magical moment happens. And I don't want to give too much away because people must come and check it out themselves.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay?
yeah,
When she
yeah,
gets rescued out of that children's home and her journey takes her through, I think, a journey that so many colored people in our country went through in that time. Being exiled, missing home, not knowing what is my identity and where do I belong, okay? It was my great honor to meet the late, great poet Vinnie February. It was in Amsterdam when I was doing a documentary about South Africans working and living in the Netherlands and all over Europe. And he told me what it was like to leave his country, to be in another country, who actually laughed at his accent, because Afrikaans and Dutch is very close together,
yeah,
but there are certain
yeah,
words you never say in Afrikaans to a Dutch
yeah.
person because it
Yeah, I
means
like that.
completely the different. Now, that is also one of the comedy moments in the incredible journey of Tinkerbell van Tonder when I tell people how she learned how to speak Dutch. But I'm not going to give away too much. You must come yourself and
Yeah,
laugh your
yeah,
head off at how they interpret what we say. But it was Vernie February, sorry. He was an esteemed poet, and he had been in exile for a very, very long time. It was my honor to meet him and his wife, and to see how he made a living there, and how people laughed at him when he used to talk about, for instance, grondbootjie boter, which is peanut butter in Afrikaans,
Peanut butter.
as we know it. Yeah, and they call it pindas, pindas, and there they also thought he speaks a weird language. And today, when I perform in the Netherlands and in Belgium, it is amazing how they embrace my language, how they understand what I'm saying to them, because I sing just in Afrikaans. If there are words that are, as they call, lastig, I explain to them before the song. This is what it means. But now it's a joy after performing there for almost, 8 years. They sing songs with me. They know the songs of Slippers van Satin. They sing the chorus together. They love it, okay? And also, I also my songs, I write about everything, social issues in this country. Love, loss, caring, survival. I am not a commercial singer. I sing about things that touch all of us. And that is why I think it is my inborn spirituality that makes my work more in a niche market. I can't sing Saki Saki Doof Doof, Boki Boki songs. I can't. It kills me. It's got to mean, it's got to mean something. The lyric is the strongest foundation of a song, as the dialogue, the script of any of my one-woman shows that is the foundation. Then the songs come to fill in a show like that, and that's what we did with Tinkerbell. I sing a whole medley of the Cape Coons, of the Kaapse Klopse, and the people go crazy. It's wonderful, okay? And it was so amazing when we did one of my first plays at Cape Pap called Kinkels in die Kabel by Andre P. Brink. And I still feel a bit uncomfortable and, about it. We were a group of white actors acting colored people. And in those days, my dear, in 1979, coloreds weren't allowed near the Nikumalan Theatre.
Yeah.
People of other colors weren't allowed in that theatre, okay? And I remember playing Adriana from the Cape. She was an out tooth, and I did it fantastic because I grew up in the Eastern Cape, and my father was a pastor, and our house was always full of colored, Indian, and black preachers. So I knew that from childhood, and I couldn't understand. Now, what God are they praying to if they're not allowed in our churches, So the amazing circle of life brought me back to the Joseph Stone Theatre. It was this year when we did a concert, March of Freedom. And it was amazing. It was me, Tembi Mtsali Jones, Alistair, Basil Apollos organized it. And in those days, we were the only theatre group invited to the Joseph Stone to do Kinkels in die Kabels there. And there was a gentleman in the audience, and he was obviously a very important member of the Cape Coon Carnival. And he grabbed me aside afterwards and he said to me, You know, women are not allowed to march, ne? But you can march in front. What an honor.
Crazy, no?
I will never forget that. And now the circle for me was completed this year when we could do that show in front of an audience of all colors and people loving what we were doing. Yeah. No, I've had a very, very blessed life, Wesley. And with time,
an incredible journey.
There comes wisdom and empathy. And I believe the moment you lose your ego, the moment you realize the world isn't revolve around me. The moment you become an empty vessel, the moment you realize, I don't want the spotlight, I want to be the light, everything fell into place for me. And that's what I do now.
Sure.
I serve people. I serve my talent. I bless people with my shows. I make them think. Sometimes it's in a harsh way, because we can't look away from reality, especially in this country.
Sure.
Now this thing is turning
Sure,
again.
Amanda, that's the. Don't worry, I can still hear and see you, and we're still recording. So this yellow, right? Yo, this is
Okay.
an incredible journey, man. Yeah, there's so many things I can. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Yo,
I could hear you.
you
Yeah.
mentioned so much. I don't even Okay, man. Yes. There's something that I wanted to ask you more in the beginning, but I guess we're here now. The character Tinkerbell. I mean, Tinkerbell, isn't that a character from the Peter Pan story? How does
No,
does that name have
no,
any
no.
significance in the? Sorry, continue.
Now, what were you gonna ask?
No, I was going to ask: is there any relationship between the two characters of the in the two stories?
A relationship between me and Tinkerbell?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Because I know what it feels like to be exercised by your own people after the Black Power salute. I know what loneliness is. I know the journey of trying to find yourself and asking yourself, where do I belong in this country and what is my duty? And Wesley, when I met Nelson Mandela the first time, it was at the opening of the KAKA Festival in 2001. I was completely out of order, as usual, because we had to stand and sing the national anthem. None of us knew who was coming to open the festival. And then I heard, we were all sitting on stage, I heard the sound of a helicopter, and there was a long ramp on the left-hand side of the stage. And the next minute, this man comes walking up the ramp in his beautiful trademark shirt, the trademark shirt, the colors, with two bodyguards. And I realized, my goodness, it's Nelson Mandela. And he was amazing. He opened the festival in a speech in pure Afrikaans. And after his speech, he lifted Die Groot Verse book, which is the big poetry book of Afrikaans poets. He lifted it up and he said, Afrikaans is vry. Wesley, then the Navy band starts playing Mama Tembu's Wedding. Man, you can't sit still when that song is playing. So I start going like this in my chair. I look at him and he starts doing that shuffle. I jumped up. I ran past the security guards like a scrumskakel on his way to score a goal, and I landed in his arms and he held me. I felt like a matric girl falling into the arms of her boyfriend. I just held him. All I could get out was, I love you, I love you. And he whispered, I love you too. I know who you are. He knew who I was. Tokyo Sexwale told him on Robben Island that there was a boeremeisie who stood up and gave the salute and sang a song about what was happening. I couldn't believe it. Weeks after, he invited me and my husband for lunch at his house, and then a couple of months later, again, there we were with Joel Stransky and his wife having lunch with Madiba and Grasa at the table. Just us. And I was so honored to be invited to his 85th birthday, which was a groot gedoente. And the decorum and everything was very, very important. You're not allowed to talk to anybody. You got to. So there I'm standing next to Bono, and I can't tell him, "Hey, I like you." There I'm standing next to the Queen of Netherlands. I can't tell her, "Hey, ek hou van jou." There I'm standing next to Robert De Niro, but you're not allowed. But what an honor it was to meet that man,
What
to spend
an
time
incredible
alone with.
story.
It was just, yeah, man, I was attacked by dogs after that Kaka and Ka. And it was on the front page of every newspaper, singer attacked by dogs. Madiba saw it because he read every newspaper every morning.
Yeah,
From the Beeld to the Transvaal to the Star to the whatever, okay? And the next minute I got this call from Zelda Legrand, and she said, he wants to come and see you. And I said, you must be joking. And she said, do you want to speak to him yourself? So there they rocked up at the guest house I was moved to, away from the Rottweilers. And there it was just the two of us. Him walking slowly, me limping because of the dog that bit me on my leg. And we sat there, and he said, come sit next to me, because I was sitting in the chair opposite him. And then he realized I was also from the Eastern Cape. And we shared stories. We spoke for hours. It was like visiting your grandpa. And that man made you feel that you were the only person in the room, that you're the most important person in the room. And that man taught me that no matter what life has thrown at you, no matter what obstacles you had to overcome, no matter what criticism you had to endure, you will survive. And you survive by forgiving and moving on and never looking back. That quote of his that he said, when I was released from prison, I realized that if I look back, I will still be in prison. What a wonderful man he was. I don't know what he'd think of what's happening in our country right now, but I honor him and for what he did. I mean, everybody expected a war to erupt, a drama to erupt, and he came out and he said peace to everybody. And that to me was just astounding, so yeah.
Sure. This is an incredible story, man. She's yeah. I'm actually sort of almost lost for words in terms of like no normally before every recording I've got a very set like where I wanted to go and what I want to ask and sort of what I kind of expect. I didn't expect anything what you were saying. Yeah, I'm still kind of falling around in my mind about the whole theme about the whole colored identity crisis because just to highlight something, I think it just never went away. Yeah, sure. In the 80s and the 70s and stuff, during apartheid, we couldn't physically go to certain places, but these days you can't afford to go to certain places. And if you look at I grew up in a colored Christian conservative colored family and neighborhood. And if I drive there today, nothing has changed since and we moved out there in 1990 or 89, 90,
Really?
one of the two.
Really?
Nothing has changed. The houses look the same. It's just maybe some of the neighbors, the walls grew higher. I mean, but that's all over the country.
Yeah, I know
Um,
exactly
but
what you're saying. That to me is still such an injustice.
nothing has
All the
happened.
promise,
The
all
identity,
the,
no, nothing. There's very few. The only, I would say, cultural heroes that we have that is noticeable are sportsmen. and you know, they are very sanitized version and they are very nuanced. You know, you can't really. I don't really think a sportsman or woman is somebody to maybe their sporting ability you can you can clap hands and so forth, but they don't really stand or represent anything because they are bought by major brands and you know, sponsorship and stuff, and not really allowed to talk out at certain things. Um, but from a cultural perspective, because I mean I'm a colored guy myself, of course. I mean, identity and being a minority has screwed up. Well, not screwed up. That's a bit of a no. It's not harsh, but as it was centered to. Yeah, hi everybody. Yeah, man. Sorry about that. The episode got the or rather the connection, the internet, the network, blah 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 blah. You know, same old shit. It just got messed up, and apologies for that. Um, but let me just sort of wrap up on what I was saying. Yeah, man. I mean, the colored condition is a. I mean, the identity crisis around colored people is a problem. Yeah. But to be honest with you, because I don't know life outside of not having an identity crisis, so I sometimes think that my views might be biased in that regard. But I'll be interested to know if anybody agrees or disagrees with me regarding that. But yeah, man. Just first and foremost, just also many thanks to Amanda Strydom. My sister, I really enjoyed our conversation. The incredible journey of Tinkerbell van Tonder. Please check it out. This coming weekend at Die Pienk Kerk. I will add all the details below as well, and don't forget, you can also find Amanda on Facebook at Amanda Strydom or Instagram at Miss Mandy 64. And again, I will add all that descriptions there below, as long as well as a link to DiePienkKerk, their Facebook page, and you can check them out there. Um, but just sort of in closing, about the whole I guess the colored identity problem. It's a topic that I don't always feel comfortable talking about on this platform, and I have many reasons for that. I try to just keep it, you know, on art related issues, but whenever it does come up, it sort of triggers something in me that I don't always appreciate, and I try to avoid it where possible. And I guess all my other creative artists, friends, and so forth can possibly relate. But but big up to Amanda for doing the play about that. She was actually the first person that I know outside of the community that actually did something about the identity crisis within our community. And I think I'll wrap it up right there. If you got this far and you haven't already, please smash that like and subscribe button. I will appreciate it. I'll appreciate it very, very, very much. And yeah, I will catch you guys all on the next episode. Take care. One love.